everyone. Today I am talking about some fiction books that I would like to read. So if these are any good, let me know before I go and buy them, obviously. But basically, let's just get right into the video. First on my list is Goddess. This story is, I think, about like beauty and influence, self-doubt, seduction. I think it involves like supernatural things that are happening because like in the description I saw for it, it seems like, the main character goes to this Greek island and then I think one of the gods starts like messing with her or something. It's not on the top of my list, but it seems like it could be a really interesting book. But moving on, All Your Twisted Secrets. Basically, a really popular girl, a star athlete, valedictorian, stoner, loner, music geek, they all get put into this like scholarship dinner, but it's a trap, and they're only allowed to leave the room if they pick one of these students to like get rid of for good. And it's, really crazy because they have to like, I guess, go through each person's like, I guess, drama or like things they've done wrong, and then I guess like pick the worst one out of the group to just like end so everyone else could save themselves. But anyway, moving on. This is the book that I actually really, really want, okay? Like the other two books, not really worried that much about, but this one though, I find really, really interesting. Lauren and her father, Niall, live alone in the Highlands in a small village surrounding a forest. When a woman stumbles out onto the road on one Halloween night, Niall drives her back to the house in his pickup. In the morning, she's gone. In a community where daughters rebel, men quietly rage, and drinking is a means of forgetting, mysteries like these are not out of the ordinary. The trapper found hanging with the dead animals for 2 weeks, locked doors and stone circles, the disappearance of Lauren's mother a decade ago. Like, this just sounds so interesting. Like, I use that word all the time, like, it's interesting, but I'm, like, actually intrigued. Like, I would buy this book today if I could, Like, literally, one of the parts of the description says that Lauren looks for answers in her tarot cards, hoping she might one day be able to read her father's turbulent mind. I want to read it. The Last Polar Bear. It's just the story of, like, a polar bear existing. He's the last one, or she's the last polar bear, I don't know. But basically, like, I think somebody tries to save it. I don't know. I think I would list it in the thriller category for me, so I'm just going to assume it's supposed to be a really, really crazy story. I love polar bears. Anyway, moving on. This story called Mostly Dead Things. Trigger warning, because, like, something crazy happens in this that is very mental health related, just like a few other of the books. But I really want to read this one because it involves a taxidermy shop, and I don't know how strong that is in the plot, but I never read a story before where that's included, so I feel like it'd just be something to read that's just different from other stories I've read before. I don't know. I'm pretty sure there's a plot twist too, and I'm really into that, so yeah. Anyway, Annie on My Mind. I wanted to read this back when I was like 14 because it was like a banned book, and now that I'm older I still want to read it, except like I'm not into romance novels. However, there are a few I have that I like, so I think I might like this one too, because I read the preview, and I did like it, so yeah, wouldn't mind giving this a read. Anyway, Before We Were Blue. It's about these two girls who have problems with their mental health, and they go to, like, hospital, and I kind of do want to read it, but I don't know. I try to avoid stories that take place in hospitals because it reminds me of the hospital too much. I don't want to think about the hospital. I never do. Like, if it's outside of the hospital, I'm okay with that, but whenever it involves an actual hospital, I'm like, no. So it's not on the top of my list, obviously. We Are Okay. This book, I think, is about this girl who just, like, runs away, and she leaves everything behind. She's, like, thousands of miles away because she went over to the California coast, I think, or she runs away to New York. I have no clue. But basically, it's a really loved book. Like, a lot of people love this book. I don't really know much about it. Like, the description doesn't really give me much to go off of, but I think I would like to read it. It kind of reminds me of that movie, Lady Bird. Yeah, I love that movie. Moving on, My Year of Rest and Relaxation. I believe this is a story about a person who was suffering with an addiction, but I don't really know. However, a lot of people love this book, and you know, I don't want to be that person who's like, well, everyone likes it because, like, listen, 50 Shades of Grey also has amazing reviews, but I would not like that book. You know what I mean? However, sometimes I find books that have really great reviews, and I'm like, oh, I think I would like it too then. Which, they're not always right. Obviously, there's a bunch of books where I bought and was like, I'm gonna love it, and then I read it and I hated it, even though it had outstanding reviews. So, yeah, whatever. But this book has really great reviews, and I might be interested in it, so I might read it one day. Don't know. Obviously, if you watch my videos, if you've heard the things I've talked about before, the books that I find interesting, the books that I have read, and you also have similar tastes, then you're gonna be the best guess at these because you'll know what I might like to read or not. You know what I mean? Because if we have similar tastes, then we're going to probably read similar books. Next up is Girls Against God. This book takes place in 1990s Norway. White picket fences run in the neat rows, and Christian conservatism runs deep. But as the artist considers her past, her practice, and her hatred, things start stirring themselves up around her. This story, like, mentions witches, curses. Don't want to really spoil it, but it sounds like it's a pretty interesting book. I mean, the cover is also pretty interesting as well. But, yeah. And next up, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I never got to see the movie. I never got to watch anything about it, regarding it. I know nothing about this story. I never got to read the book. So I think I would like to read the book first before watching the movie, but I'm not really sure. Another thing I also wanted to read was Paper Towns at some point, but because I already watched the movie, I think I'll just stick with that. Because I feel like when I watch the movie first, I can't read the book. But if I read the book first and then watch the movie, I could manage that. Next up is Looks. This book has been on my wish list for like a pretty long time now, but from what I remember the preview saying, it's basically about this plus size girl and this underweight girl. They become friends, and they just try to get along. I think the whole plot is it doesn't matter what you look like because there's a friend in everybody, which is really important to know because especially when you're in high school, you're always like encouraged to hang out with the prettiest people, the hottest looking people, and the skinniest people, and it's just like really insane. Most of us don't fit in to that pretty person standard. So I think it's really, really important that we're taught to judge each other less. Because like when you're in high school, because I'm pretty sure these are teenagers in the story. When you're in high school, you really are taught like to look the best and try to be the best, and a lot of that means changing who you are. Like I went through that and it was terrible to have to change the way I look for people, change what I do, change my interests just to fit in. Like if me liking horses a lot weirds you out, and if me in my fashion sense weirds you out, and if the way I talk bothers you, we're just not meant to be friends. Like you shouldn't have to change for anybody. And it becomes even worse when you have to also change your weight for people. It's just sad because we're always made to be like, be the hottest, be the best, be the most important. However, like, at the end of the day, we're all just people. But yeah, that is pretty much it. So I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!